everyone, my name is Sam. Thanks for checking out this video. If you get to the end and liked it, then subscribe, bell notification, give the video a thumbs up. So yeah, I had another really good reading week. Not the most by far quantity-wise, but I feel like I read a lot of like really good books this week. I'm still working on House of Earth and Blood, or Crescent City, whatever the heck the Sarah J. Maas book is called. I don't know. I literally asked in a video, it's like, which one is the title, which one's the series? And people commented literally the exact opposite, so I'm still not sure what the heck it's actually called. We'll just call it Crescent City because it's the biggest wording on the book. So, yeah, I'm still working on that. I'm hoping to get it done this weekend, so it'll be in next week's video. But, yeah, I read a ton of books this week. It's just supposed to be overcast here all weekend, so we're gonna live with it. But yeah, so starting off, I finished my reread of Crazy Rich Asians this week. I absolutely love this series. It's my pick-me-up, my feel-good, other people's problems, not worrying about this world kind of craziness going on right now series. And I want to reread China Rich Girlfriend soon, but the library is so long. So I'll maybe see if I can find it on Scribd or something like that for next month. But yeah, read this, love it, still love it. I'm so excited. Sex and Vanity, his new series, is coming out in a couple months. My beautiful, wonderful friend Mel, who lives in the UK, pre-ordered me the signed special edition that they have at Waterstones. And she's like, oh, by the way, I already bought this. And I was like, you don't have to keep trying to buy my love. You already have it at this point. But I'm so excited, and I bought it for my libraries. I'm so excited for that book. So freaking excited. I also picked up my Ark of Thorn, and actually this week I got my finished copy because I got part of the way through it, and I was like, oh my god, it's so good. So then I ordered it because this month, for April, it is the Indigo Teen Pick of the Month. So instead of like $23.99, I think it is, it's down to $20. And then I'm a Plum bonus exclusive member points, the paid membership. So it went down to $18. So that's pretty good. I'm very happy that I own it, and I'm never giving my this Ark. So Thorn by Inastar Kanani. I don't know that. So I went on her Goodreads page. She has a lot of like other publications that are like either like self-publications or I think indie. So I'm not sure if debut is the right word, but I'm going to use it in like the mainstream traditional publishing. I've never seen this author before. Not to like say it's more valuable. I just have never heard of this author, so it's like a debut in my mind, right? So this is her debut work. It is a classic, a retelling of The Goose Girl for fans of The Hazelwood and The Wrath of the Dawn. So the main princess, I want to make sure I got all these name rights because I love this book so much. Prince Alira is essentially like, she's living in an abusive family situation, and they're trying to marry her off to someone to ensure that there continues to be no military action in their community. And through a series of events, we have a Freaky Friday incident. So she has to continue on as if she is not who she is, but then there's like when this happens, like she's not allowed to tell people who she is. Like there's this thing, like curse essentially put on her. And so it's this whole time of these characters trying to figure out who she is, but as well as she goes to this community that she was essentially supposed to be married into and finds out all of these different things and these stories, and people aren't exactly who they say they are, and that there is like political strife within that community. There's supposed to be a companion in 2021. I'm so excited for that. I loved the characters. This was a book that like I remember when I got it, I was like, oh boy, it's big. She uses every page of this for a purpose. Like there's no scenes in here that I'm like, oh, cut out. There's no need for this. Everything develops the characters, the world, the conflict. And it's done with like such care. Like it honestly reminded me of like the care and effort and like the purpose that I feel like when I read the Bear and the Nightingale, Catherine Arden's release, where I was like, this isn't a debut work. There's no way that this is a debut author. They have too much self-awareness of what they're writing, of what they're like, of their writing as like what they're putting down, but as well as like what it's doing for the story. Like they have control over everything. They know where they're going with this. Like, and then I feel like when I read so many other debuts, like it falls into so many different tropes, and then like it just leans on them, and then there's scenes where I'm like, there's no purpose to this. Like, what is this? None of that happened here. I was so freaking confused and being like, this isn't possible. Like, I don't understand. So, highly recommend this book. It should hit New York Times bestseller. It is so freaking good. So good. I cannot wait for the sequel. Keep the keep the same cover theme, please, because I absolutely love this cover. The finished copy has a bright red under dust jacket. There's nothing on it, but like it's just so like the hair. It's just so, I love this so much. Like this is one I'm going to probably be rereading in a couple months because like it was so good. I just like in the quality of the writing and then the story itself. I don't feel like I've read this story 400 other times. You know what I mean? I finally had to stop delaying it because there was like 5 people on hold on the library copy that I had because my I just didn't, my finished copy. Yeah, so I have my finished copy now. And so this beautiful, wonderful girl in one of the groups that I'm in messaged me. He's like, hey, I got a double of the Owl Crate Ruthless Gods. Do you want it? You just have to pay for shipping. And I was like, yes! And then I was like, oh my god, yes, absolutely. So then I went over to my Indigo that I had literally just checked like an hour ago and it still hadn't shipped. And all of a sudden there was like a tracking number. And it's like, it's been picked up by the courier. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'll have the Owl Crate and this finished edition, which I'm very happy because the finished edition, I don't have the Owl Crate of the first one, and I know the background color is the opposite, is normally black, so the other one won't necessarily match my Wicked Saints one, because I don't have the Owl Crate for that one. So I have, this is the regular one, and like, the book is $26, $25.99, yeah, so $26 in Canada. Wednesday Books is normally on the pricier end of the spectrum, but like, they normally make it worth it. So, for example, like, all of this is like reflective-y, metallic-y, the spine is so pretty, the back is still so insanely pretty, the end pages are so nice, and then the under dust jacket, they went with the same thing they did in the first book, that they put something in foil and writing underneath it. Darkness never works alone, so it's so worth the price, even if I had paid full price, which I didn't, because I have exclusive plum points, so it was a couple dollars cheaper. But like, I don't know that I can really say anything about the plot, because it would spoil everything that happens at the end of Wicked Saints. So much goes down in the last chapter of Wicked Saints, basically. But our same lovable main cast. I'm so trash for this series. Like, it gives me, like, that, it fills in that hole of, like, a Russian-y series that I really need. Because, like, I've read Shadow and Bone, I've read The Bear and the Nightingale. It's like, what's next? I need more of this, like, Russian-y community, Eastern European stuff. And so, it's so much bigger than the first book, too, by the way. But we're doing a lot of traveling, but there's a lot of, like, I want to say, I can never say her name right. Nadia. And her powers and her relationships with her god take such a primary role in this, and it's so interesting to read. And the gods especially come right to the forefront. They were important in the first book, but they come right to the forefront. And I don't think I could say anything else other than that, or it would spoil it. Love the characters in this. I just love the characters in this series so much. But again, Emily Duncan's, I feel like, a writer who, like, it doesn't make sense that she's like, this is her debut series. Like, I feel like she has a very good understanding of who she is. Also, I know that she wrote this book apparently in like 1 week or something like that. Just because how her deadlines ended up. That's insane. It's so good. I loved it more than the first one, which I think is pretty rare in series. I feel like I get number one's high and then it starts going completely down, or I read number one and then it's just like, and then the end's really strong. So it's just, we're on an upward peak, and I cannot wait for whatever comes with the third book. Then I read this book called To Have and to Hoax, which randomly showed up on my Goodreads when I was doing something for work on there, looking for, like, clean romances or something like that, which it is absolutely not a clean romance. Do not recommend it as a clean romance. But I saw the cover, and then I was like, oh, that looks cool. And then I saw that the audiobook was on Scribd, and I was like, 'tis a sign. So, yeah, I read this book in, like, a day. No, I think I read half of it at the end of a day, and then the other half of it the next morning. It is essentially like a 4-year-long game of chicken between this couple in Victorian-y era-ish England. And they're playing this giant game of chicken with each other because they had a big fight and neither of them wants to apologize. So they're trying to, like, trick the other person into apologizing. So it starts off our main character. It shows them, like, at their scene where they meet, and immediately, like, they get engaged, and, like, they get married within, like, one season after coming out into society, which is very, like, fast. And then it's like, oh, and then 4-ish years later, and you're like, okay, they've clearly had a falling out, something's happened. And then it starts off, like, she gets a letter from their house, like, I guess, is it in Kent, or, like, closer to a city, being like, oh, he's fallen off a horse, he's unconscious, you know, we don't know what's gonna happen. So she's like, fine, okay, I'll go into the city, find out what's going on. We may not be on the best of the standings, but still my husband. And she shows up, and he's, like, totally fine, standing upright. And then they, like, look at the butler guy, and he's like, oh, sorry, I forgot to send you a letter saying he's okay. So she's all like, you know what? I'm gonna pretend to be sick and see how you like it. So she, like, gets involved all these, like, for all her friends, and these fake doctors are pretending to have consumption or tuberculosis, whatever you're gonna call it. And it's this whole thing of, like, he kind of starts figuring it out, but then they just keep getting into arguments and then having sex, and then he says something stupid, and then she gets angry, and it's, like, this whole cycle. It finally does come to an end. I loved it. It was a really good, like, oh, okay, like, I don't have to worry about anything else in the world. It was really funny. It's nothing super deep. It's a historical fiction setting. It's funny. It's light. I liked the side characters, too. you can just imagine, like, if this was a movie, you can see them being like, they're so stupid. Like, just watching the main characters, they'd be off to the side with each other, like, having drinks and just watching me like, they're so stupid. Like, they clearly love each other. Just stop being stupid. Why are y'all so pig-headed? Like, it's just this, like, pettiness between them is so good. It just made me laugh so hard so many different times. It was such a good, light, relaxing read that I'm so happy I read. So this week I tried to read Wicked As You Wish, which was already on my TBR, and then everything that happened on Twitter between, like, well, I guess it wasn't just on Twitter, but, like, that's where, like, a lot of it happened, was between, like, Mackenzie Lee and all these authors, and, like, Rinch Pecco was, like, the main author's kind of voice that kept getting highlighted, between, like, Mackenzie Lee signing books from her local indie store, and people took issue with the fact that she was a white author and she was signing not just their books, but signing authors of colors books that she wasn't necessarily friends with on the author signing page, I guess was the biggest thing, and Rinch Pecco was one of them. And then Mackenzie Lee pretended that she didn't know who Rinch Pecco was, even though they've, like, literally, there's, like, evidence of them, like, having interaction before. And then Mackenzie Lee, like, just pretended it didn't happen, and then, like, the Twitter of the indie bookstore kind of all shit went to hell on that, and then all of a sudden the whole thing happened with Danielle Clayton, and, like, the Zoom bombing of classes with people using racial slurs, and, like, it was a very weird week in the YA world. But I tried to read Wicked As You Wish by Rinch Pecco, not because of that, but just because it was on my TBR, okay? I'm not coming at it as on any side of this. I don't think it's my place, and honestly, and I understand both sides of this, but it's really, I'm not a person of color. I'm not someone who can understand all of this, really. So anyways, I tried to read Wicked As You Wish because The Never Tilting World was one of the best books that I've read this year. I absolutely love that. I've tried to read her Bone Witch series before. It's a different pace though, and when I tried to read it, I wasn't in the mood for that pace. I do still plan on reading it, especially now, so, you'll hear why. But yeah, so I tried to read Wicked As You Wish, was it, oh my god, Wicked As You Wish. And I went in being like, oh, because there's a lot of DNFs on Goodreads for it, like a lot. And I really like the cover of this, so I'm really sad. I also had to DNF it. I got 2 hours into the audiobook. I don't know what that is because my library holds are not coming in, right? So, it's like a contemporary alternative world with magic, and, like, I just didn't like any of the tones, not of the narrators, but, like, their dialogue, how they were interacting with each other. I didn't like any of the characters. I feel like it was very, very lost, but not in an intriguing way. In a way that, like, oh, I think the author forgot to write an introductory paragraph to this. So, I'm really sad. I wanted to really like that book, and I literally got my copy of The Never Tilting World, like my finished copy of it, because I used it from the library the first time, and I was like, bitch, it's so good, I want the finished copy. And then I saw the cover for the sequel, which came out, which, oh my god, it's the same cover theme, and I love it, and I'm gonna have it pre-ordered. But this book just did not work for me on so many different levels, and I could tell right away, and I was like, oh no, this isn't happening, no, it's supposed to, I was banking on this being a good book, that's why I was waiting until the end of my TBR, what is happening here? And it just, yeah, no, so sadly this was a DNF at 2 hours. Then I read Unmarriageable, we bought this for our libraries and no one had it out, and it's a contemporary, a lightish read, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a go, because I've seen this on a couple lists, and I've put it on a couple, like, reading and recommendations list in our libraries as well, so maybe I should give it a go. And this is like a Pride Apprentice retelling. I'll say, I'm not the target audience for this. I've never, well, that's not true. I had to read Pride and Prejudice for school, and I absolutely detested it. It and Emma. I think it was that heavily because I was forced to read it too, but, like, so, like, this is like a retelling. I didn't really love, like, the elements of the relationships that I know were mirroring the original Pride and Prejudice. I know that's why they were like that. I found the cultural aspects of it far more interesting though, because it is set in 2010? Is it 2000 or 2010? It's either 10 or 20 years ago now. So it was really interesting. I know things have changed in Pakistan a lot. Really everywhere in the Middle East in the last, is changing so rapidly, but Pakistan is this setting. So it was really interesting seeing this character of girls that some of them, no, I want to get married at 16, and some of, no, I want to get an education. What do you mean you don't want to have children? What do you mean you don't want to get married? Like, it was just all these different wide spectrums. So I found that really interesting, but I found it just like all of the cultural influences and hearing about all of that aspects of it, I found it really interesting. So I think in the end it's somewhere like a 3.5-ish out of 5 stars, but again, I don't think I'm the target audience for something like this. I can't really appreciate, I think, the pressures of that sort of stuff, or like family obligations and all that stuff. So that's something I would, if that's something you've been dealing with, this might be a good book to to think about picking out. I very quickly did a reread of My Plain Jane, which weirdly enough is Prime Apprentice retelling. I looked on my Overdrive, I had it borrowed, and all of a sudden there was like 3 people on hold behind me. I was like, oh shit, okay, I'll read it really quick. So this Prime Apprentice retelling, I love I think My Lady Jane is like, I don't know how they're ever gonna like compare a book to that, because that book was amazing. But I like this book. I think I have a greater appreciation. Sorry, I have a greater appreciation for My Lady Jane, because I have a comprehension of everything that is being highlighted there with like the animals versus like the Protestants and everything like that in England's history, because I know that history. I've done university degrees and courses on all that stuff. Like I'm very, very, like that stuff is something that I'm aware of, that I can see when it's being like mirrored. This is something that's not so much, because I hated the book. And so it was, I really love though that we have the main character and Charlotte Bronte interacting. I find that really funny and fascinating, and like a really Jodie Meadows, Cynthia Han, and Brody Ashton way of interacting with them. So I like, it's like got these like Ghostbuster influences for sure. So I think it's a fun read, especially for anyone who's an appreciator of Pride and Prejudice. But I think it was like not as good as My Lady Jane in this series, and it was still a good read. And I'm very excited for My Calamity Jane, which is supposed to come out in like 2-ish months. Hopefully it doesn't get pushed back, but yeah, this is good. I think this is My Lady Jane is like a solid 5 stars. This is a 4-star for me, I think. I also picked up a novella called The Black God's Drums, which is a very short novella. I read it via audiobook. I found it by fluke when we were doing a thread in the TBR and Beyond group, kind of in reaction to what happened to Danielle, that we put a thread together in the TBR and Beyond group of highlighting works from Black authors, and this was one that I just stumbled upon when I was looking through Goodreads to put links there, that I had never heard of, and it's actually really interesting. I would really highly recommend it. I don't know really how to explain it. Like, it's just, it's exactly what the summary says. It's obviously a quick read. It's a novella, but I found it really interesting. Just like, I don't think I said a whole word or like paused or did anything. I just kind of sat there and listened to the whole thing. It was really interesting, fascinating read, and I bought it instead of giving it on a script. So, because it was actually not super expensive on Audible, so I have it. And I feel like that's going to be a good one to like kind of substitute in whenever I'm like, okay, I finished my book, and there's like not enough time to start and finish like a bigger, like a book that's 300 pages, but maybe you have like an hour or 2 to kill. I think this is one that I'm going to start using for that, because I don't know, I found it like not relaxing, because I don't think what happens in it is relaxing, but it was just a fascinating, really good novella. And the last book that I finished this week was Before the Broken Star by Emily R. King. I got it on Friday afternoon, and then I just decided to read it, and I didn't stop. And I kept reading it, and I finished it. So this is the author who wrote the 100th Queen series, which I did read the first book of that series and was not really a fan of it. And I'd seen this book floating around on like the internet or whatever, and then I randomly was like, oh, and then it showed up somewhere, and when I was on Indigo, and it wasn't super expensive, I don't think. And they had it in stock, and I was like, you know what? I'll give this author a go. I really like the book cover. I don't remember anything problematic in the first book, I don't think. So, like, it just wasn't for me. So, worst comes to worst, I have a pretty book cover on my shelf. And then my friend was like, oh, it's got a really pretty underdust jacket. And I was like, oh, I remember seeing pictures when it came out on Twitter, but I thought it was, like, people who had, like, done it. Like, people get their books and then they do the sprayed edges themselves or whatever. She's like, no. It's, actually like this underneath. Like, this is how it comes. Like, how do we have books that come plain black when this was an option? Why don't we have tie-dye books? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand. Anyways, I read it in a single day. It's so good. I immediately finished and then ordered books 2 and 3, who apparently all have the rest of the, like, the underdust jackets are also really pretty for the rest of the series, too. So it's a really interesting book that I feel like actually a lot happens in such a short book, because it is under 300 pages. But I think, I'm not sure I'm saying it, but the first I think the character's name is Everly. Eve, it's throwing me if it's like, maybe it's just, yeah, Everly. I think it's Everly. And her family is assassinated, like, before the book starts. So she's growing up of, like, I want to get revenge. And it starts off the beginning of the book where she's going to go to a penal colony, and things veer in a very opposite direction very quickly. So, but the really big, like, highlight thing is that with when she woke up from, like, after everything with the assassination attempt, like, her whole family was taken out, her parents, her brother, and everything, she has, like, a heart that's made, like, operated as a clock. So throughout this whole book, like, there's times where, like, that becomes an issue, that, like, she thinks she's running out of time, and then, like, it gets waterlogged, which is, like, gonna killer. And then there's just like a giant trust issue of who the hell do I trust, because things were clearly, they were pitched to me, and then as I'm going through life, they're not adding up, right? There's some issues. I was lied to, or someone was lied to in order to tell me. Lots of people have been lying to me, so there's giant trust issues. There's like a forced marriage, and like, it's a really good book that covers so much ground in such a short book. I'm so excited to read the sequels. So excited. And it does not in any way feel like it's the same author who wrote the 100th Queen series, which is why I was like, you know what, I'll give it a go. Because when I looked on reviews on Goodreads, the amount of comments on this book that were like, I tried the 100th Queen and didn't like it, but this is not the same author. Like, it's totally different writing. The characters are totally different. The character in this, I love her. The 100th Queen main character seemed like, if I remember it right, was like very timid and like pushovery, and like I just did not like any of the vibes she was putting off as her. This is like a totally different author. It's crazy, actually. And like the writing, I just feel like was a lot stronger in this one. And also, I gotta commend an author when a series comes out in quick succession, whatever the word is there. Like, I think between like this second and the third book, they came out within like a span of a year or something like that. Some insane quick speed like that, which is easier to do when they're not big, but like, I appreciate that so much. So, oh, it looks like it's going to start raining now. Okay. Yeah, so, yeah, those are the books that I read this week. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought, and what you read this week. Even if it wasn't some of these books, I would love to know. And I will link all of these books in the description box down below. I will also link all of my social media. If you follow me, I will follow you back. Stay the fuck inside if you don't need to go out. And I will see you on Tuesday with my May TBR video.